Hello and welcome back. It's Friday, so time for another episode of News from the Gelding, I believe. Yes, today I'm just going to be talking about painting. I've been painting all this week, working on the final illustration for the book cover, but 3 other paintings at the same time. So the problem is, as I said back along, that because I use oil paints, they take a very long time to dry. And the way I work, I like to use layers and go back over them. So I last worked on the illustration on Monday, and it's still wet, so I haven't been able to do very much on it. Now I've been trying to dry them a bit quicker by putting them in my car, which because it's nice weather here at the moment, it becomes it's like an oven in there. So I just crack the door open a little bit and put the painting in there and hope to bake them dry, but it's not. I mean, if I wasn't doing that, it would probably take far longer to dry, even longer. So that's what I've had to do. Now, ideally, I'd be writing now. I'm 2/3 through writing the sequel to the book that I haven't even published yet. But I've tried in the past to split the day in half and spend half the day painting or doing some kind of artwork, and then the other half writing, but it just never works. I've got to begin a day doing one thing and work through the day doing that thing. I can't do it. So this week I've had to just put my painting hat on. I'll show you what I've been working on this week in a moment, including where I'm up to with the illustration. I wasn't going to show yet, but I think it'd be nice to see another stage or some of the stages. At the end I'm recording a film of the whole process, so you can see that when it's finished. I'll show you those in a minute. The only other thing to say for the week is that my wrist is really bad, and that's through painting more. I've been prescribed a strong, it's not a painkiller, what is it, anti-inflammatory, and so I take one of those every morning now. If I don't take it, then it's terrible. Now, I'm no stranger to pain, in that I've got a kind of chronic issue with my knee, and so I absolutely loved cycling. Cycled all my life, and I've had to give that up 3 years ago, so I haven't cycled for 3 years. But it's a horrible thing when something that you love doing causes you pain, becomes a misery. So I've had to stop that, and the trouble is I've been a little bit down this week, so it reminds me of the fact that nothing is permanent, and another thing I love doing, art, could one day not be possible. Already it's not very pleasant sometimes to work on a painting. So then I think to myself, well, should I give that up as well? But I'm not going to. I'm just going to work through it. I mean, that's the last straw. I'm not giving that up. I mean, at some point I imagine I will have to, if I can't move it or whatever. But for now everything's fine. I imagine for a few years to come, I'll be fine. Hopefully a lot longer. I've still got to wait for this next hospital appointment where they're going to ultrasound it and see if there's anything they can do. Okay. So, right. I'll show you where I'm up to then. So the first thing I'll do is show the painting as it is. Here we go. Right. Here we go. I can't really. There we go. This camera's not brilliant, is it? So I can't really see good detail. But so I've blocked in So I did one underpainting, and this is the second layer. So I put the detail on the mountains and a bit more with the forest in the background and the canopy above. I've taken all the masking off, so you can see the toning that I used for the main foreground, this kind of ochre colour. See, the problem I've got at the moment, and this is a work in progress, I never set out to know exactly how it's going to go. I like to kind of work through it. So I think the problem is the forest in the back, this green, is going to be too dark in contrast to the foreground, which is going to be quite dark colours as well. So I think on Monday, if it's dry by then, I'm going to knock that back with yellows. I think I'm going to make that a yellow forest, and then the foreground will pop a bit more. That's the idea. Yeah, I'm not going to show you now, but if I touched this green under here, it would be wet. And you can't paint detail on top. You can do wet on wet, but for what I want to achieve, that's not going to work. So yeah, so that's that. I'll put that here for now. There we go. Yeah, so I think maybe another 2 weeks before this one's finished. Pain, absolute pain. And I really wish I had acrylics and I could, nail the painting. I mean, I could do it in 3 or 4 days, but so it's a bit of an annoying thing. So yeah, what I'll do is I've got the other ones on file, so I'll show them over here, over there. So the first one is it's like another fantasy themed one. It's, with a figure in it. So I've done the drawing. I'll show the drawing. And I've started a bit of underpainting, so that's where that one's at. That one's actually dry. That dried really quickly, and I think it's it's the type of pigment, whichever colour. Some dry quicker than others. Greens, I'm finding whites, greens, yellows, sometimes reds, they take over a week. Something like burnt umber, that will dry almost in a day. It's almost like an acrylic paint, so that's quite nice for underpainting sometimes. Well, that's what I'll use for the next stage. So it may not take as long as I'm thinking. The next one is an abstract one. I think I was lying in bed and it just popped into my head, this scene, so I thought just paint it. So yeah, so I just knocked that one up quick. That was in one sitting. I had to mask off certain areas to get it so I could work on it properly. It's wet at the moment, wet as a fish, so that's that. I'll maybe do a bit more on that next week. The next one is another abstract one. That's based on a drawing I did about 15 years ago. It just popped into my head again. I thought, well, let's just paint it, see what it's like in colour. Yeah, it's just a very strange, surreal tentacle kind of thing, and it's coming out of it's like a desert. Now, when I work on, especially painting, I like to sometimes listen to music, but more often than not, I like to listen to a film, or specifically a film I've seen before. I quite like that, and I'll listen to it over and over again. At the moment, I'm going through a Nicolas Cage phase, so I've been watching quite a few, listening to quite a few of those. So for those two desert ones, one of them I listened to, what was it? Wild at Heart, David Lynch film with Nicolas Cage in. Absolutely amazing film. Highly recommend that. And for the other deserty looking one, I listened to Crocodile Dundee. Yeah, there's a bit of an insight there into my creative process. Right, let's have a little bit of tea and then Right, so just to talk a tiny little bit more about myself as an artist. I'm self-taught in terms of painting and drawing and all of that. so I learnt before the internet existed, basically. And the problem is, and I think this is probably still the issue now in schools, in England anyway, I don't know about anywhere else, but they don't like teaching technique. And sometimes that's because the teachers themselves can't paint or draw themselves. And I know this for a fact. I know some of my teachers couldn't do it. So it's if you're lucky enough to get a teacher that can paint or draw very well, you may be lucky enough to learn from them. But I never learnt technique from a teacher. And I remember the argument being that if we were to teach you how to paint or draw, everyone will be doing it the same way. And I totally disagree with that. I think you need a starting point from which to find your own technique. I did a tiny bit of for work experience when I was at art college, and I worked in a girls' school in the art department. And it's the same. I recognised it straight away. Same issue. And they had a problem girl there that was the bad girl of the class, and she'd been working on this painting for almost a month, they said. It's just a flower, a rose or whatever, and she was just messing around in the class. But, and I sat down with her and I just showed her a very simple way of mixing a few, keeping it simple, mixing like a highlighter, a mid-tone and a dark colour. And once I showed her that, silence, and she was doing it and didn't hear a peep out of her for the rest of the day, rest of the lesson. And she finished the painting in that day, and her friends were like, and they were all wanting to know how she had done that. Now I can see the issue here with if you teach that approach, they're all going to do the same kind of thing, but it gives you a starting point, and it gives you encouragement that there's a way of proceeding, of getting better. Now, I don't believe personally in natural talent to a certain extent. I think as a child I was naturally good at drawing, and so I would get encouragement and I would do it more, and I used to like getting praise for what I did, and that made me get better and better and better. So I think talent gives you maybe a head start. The thing is then, at school, you'll have peers that maybe they love drawing, but they look around and they see someone else and think, oh my God, I could never do that. And then they stop doing it. You ask any adult to draw something and they'll say, I can't draw. And they'll draw if they have to, they'll draw something and it will be to the same standard more or less as it was as a child, because they haven't practiced at all since then. They've stopped, they've lost interest. But it's all about time, it's all about practice. The fact I can do what I do to the standard I want is because of hundreds, if not thousands of hours of practice I put in as a child. I think anyone, if they really love to do, if they want to be an artist, if they want to draw to a certain, whatever standard they want or perceive, whatever they fancy, it's all about practicing. That's all it is, I believe. So, yeah, I'm not saying I'm amazing or anything like nothing like it. I mean, I enjoy doing what I do, and I have a certain style I want to achieve and a certain level of detail I might want to impart in a painting or drawing or whatever, and that's what I aim for. I set my own standards and I go by them, but I think it's possible for most people to achieve easily that standard, and if not better, if you put the time in. But you've got to love doing it to put that time in. You can't just slavishly, spend 5 hours a day learning something you don't like doing. So you need to have a passion foremost. Even if you've got no ability, if you've got a passion, it'll come. There we are, a little pep talk. Anyway, right, so that's that for now. So next week I'm going to carry on working on the this one, and maybe by next Friday it might be almost done, but I doubt it. But I'm getting very close now. I got another proof copy of the book, and it was much better. Still not perfect, but so one more, and it'll be ready. And so maybe by next week I'll have a release date. You never know. Okay, so I think I'll leave it there. Sorry, there's no film I'm showing or anything today, but yeah, if you like this kind of thing, subscribe if you wish, and or give me a like, or whatever you fancy, and I'll see you all next Friday. Okay, good. Cheerio.